Most people think engines fail because of bad luck or just age, but in reality, a lot of engines don't die. They get slowly destroyed over time, not by one big mistake, but by small habits that seem harmless day after day, things people do without even thinking. And the worst part is, modern cars don't always warn you until it's already too late. So in this video, we're going to break down 5 driving habits that slowly destroy your engine. Not just the obvious ones, but also the ones most drivers completely ignore. If you care about making your car last, especially long-term, this is something you need to understand. 1. Short drives when the engine never fully warms up. This is one of the most common habits and one of the most damaging over time. If most of your driving consists of short trips, your engine rarely reaches proper operating temperature, and that creates a chain of problems. When the engine is cold, oil is thicker and doesn't flow as efficiently. Internal components experience more friction, and wear increases. At the same time, fuel doesn't burn as cleanly, which can lead to carbon buildup. But it gets worse. Moisture also builds up inside the engine, especially in colder climates. And if the engine never gets fully warm, that moisture doesn't evaporate. Over time, it mixes with oil and creates sludge. That sludge slowly reduces lubrication, blocks passages, and increases internal wear. This is why cars that are only driven short distances often age worse than cars with higher mileage but longer drives. A simple solution is occasionally taking the car on a longer drive long, enough for everything to reach full temperature and stabilize. 2. Revving a cold engine. This one is more obvious, but many people still underestimate how damaging it is. When you start your car, especially in colder conditions, the oil hasn't fully circulated yet. It takes time for proper lubrication to reach all internal components. If you immediately rev the engine or accelerate aggressively, you're putting stress on parts that are not properly protected yet. That includes piston rings, cylinder walls, and bearings. Modern engines are more efficient, but they are also more sensitive to this kind of stress. Tighter tolerances mean less room for error. Even something as simple as driving gently for the first few minutes can significantly reduce long-term wear. It's not about babying the car, it's about giving it a chance to reach proper operating conditions before pushing it. 3. Constantly running low on fuel. This is one of those habits people rarely think about, but it can quietly damage your engine over time. When your fuel level is very low, the fuel pump has to work harder, and it's also less effectively cooled by the fuel around it. That increases wear on the pump itself. But there's another issue. Sediment and debris that naturally collect at the bottom of the fuel tank are more likely to get pulled into the system when fuel levels are low. Over time, this can affect injectors and fuel delivery. If the fuel system doesn't operate properly, the engine doesn't get the correct air-fuel mixture. That can lead to inefficient combustion, increased deposits, and long-term performance issues. It's a small habit, but over time it adds up. Keeping your tank above a quarter is a simple way to reduce unnecessary stress on the entire system. 4. Lugging the engine at low RPM. This is one of the least obvious habits on this list, and one of the most misunderstood. A lot of drivers think driving at very low RPM is always better for the engine, but that's not always true. If you're in too high of a gear and the engine is struggling, that's called lugging. In that situation, the engine is under heavy load but not spinning fast enough to operate efficiently. That creates excessive stress on internal components, including bearings and connecting rods. It can also lead to incomplete combustion, which increases carbon buildup over time. Modern cars often encourage low RPM driving for fuel efficiency, but there's a difference between efficient cruising and forcing the engine to work too hard in the wrong gear. If the car feels like it's struggling or vibrating under load, it probably is. Keeping the engine in a comfortable RPM range reduces strain and helps maintain smoother, healthier operation long-term. 5. Ignoring engine braking on downhills. This is a more subtle habit, and something many drivers never think about at all. When going downhill, a lot of people stay on the brakes instead of using engine braking. That might not seem like an engine issue at first, but it actually affects how the engine operates under load and heat conditions. Using engine braking helps regulate speed while keeping the engine engaged in a controlled way. It also reduces stress on the braking system and prevents unnecessary heat buildup. But more importantly, it keeps engine components moving in a stable, balanced state instead of constantly shifting between acceleration and braking. Drivers who rely only on brakes often create inconsistent load patterns, especially during long descents. Over time, that contributes to uneven wear. It's a small technique, but it reflects a bigger idea. How smoothly and consistently you use your car matters more than most people think. Final thoughts. Engines rarely fail overnight. In most cases, they wear out slowly because of small habits repeated over thousands of miles. Short trips, cold revving, low fuel levels, lugging the engine, and even how you drive downhill, all of these things add up over time. The difference between an engine that lasts and one that doesn't is often not the car itself, but how it's driven. And the good news is, once you understand these habits, they're easy to fix. Drive a little smoother, pay a little more attention, let the car work the way it was designed to, because in the end, taking care of your engine isn't complicated, but ignoring it can get very expensive.